Clickbaity gamer montage over. Welcome to my build guide. Quickly, just to get out the way, the forum guide and all the links and stuff, path of building, timestamps are all in the description. Please check those out. It's the quickest way to get through the build, very clean. You can just pause on anything that's necessary, like leveling trees. Another thing to note, the forum guides I usually write up. It'll be posted after 24 hours after this upload, as I really wanted to get this build out, as I really like the skill, and I thought I may as well beat everyone else to the punch and get a video out, so there's that. This build guide's on the hollow palm technique, which is in the new cluster jewel, One With Nothing. It gives us the ability to get benefits from jewel wielding while we are unencumbered, and 60% more attack speed while unencumbered, and 14 to 20 added attack physical damage per 10 dexterity while unencumbered. Unencumbered is where you have no weapons or gloves. It creates for a really unique build, as we have very little skills we can use while getting huge damage. I scale this skill through pure physical damage and use things like Pride and Impale in order to reduce enemies' resistances and pummel them for nothing but hard ass fists. So yeah, it's a really cool build. Looking forward to showing you. I'll go into the pros, cons, defenses, and trees now. The pros of this build is that we get dummy damage. Like, it's insane. With Impale, that much attack speed and that massive physical damage to attacks, you're looking at some of the biggest DPS I've ever seen. Like, my POB, I use the community fork, but my POB with Impale is sitting around 40 million, and that's considering I spend a lot of points to travel, get to movement speed and stuff to help with clear, so it's pretty nuts. You can pretty comfortably get stupid damage. It's really awesome. Also, it's a whack playstyle. It's running around with your fists with either phase run or just one dash with maybe second wind if you have the duels is whack, and then just punching the shit out of everything is awesome. It's really fun. I thought it was going to be horrible, but I thought clear might be really bad, but it's actually really enjoyable. The other one is 1v1 bosses with your fists. It's kind of the whole point of the build. Literally stand nose to nose and punch the shit out of them. It'll usually only take 2 seconds to kill even some of the biggest bosses. We even have a reasonable defense considering all the damage we take. In a conservative build, you could comfortably get to 100% life. I go for less, but even for me, I have I think 170 to 180% life, and that's massive for me. I usually go 130% because I'm a thought. Impale's broken. That's alright. That's old news, but it's still relevant news. It's busted. I'm surprised it didn't get nerfed in 3.10, but here we are. That's why we go Impale. It's not as clear on the normal path of building as to how to calculate Impale, etc. But if you have the community fork, it's all the numbers there. It's very generous for you. Definitely worth investing into, and it's very cheap for us as we are Marauder. We're very, very close. Last of all, it's kind of a pro and a con, but I'll go into it. We have less gear to worry about. We don't need swords or gloves, so we don't have to buy them. We don't have to worry about them. And then the other pieces of gear are very set in stone pretty much. We have a few pieces of key gear that you must have, you want to have in order to deck stack and get the best out of it. So you only really have to worry about searching for very specific res gear on a few items. For our cons, you can't do Pillars of a Rune. Big con, can't do that map. We can't dash. I don't know if dash can cover the distance, but we can't leap save, we can't do any nonsense like that because we don't have our skills. A lot of tree traveling. Early on while leveling, I think leveling with One With Nothing is really good, but you have to get to a cluster slot to do so. Shouldn't be too hard, but you could path to one early. I use double strike to level with the melee splash, etc. And there's times where it sucks and just getting dumpstered by the act bosses because you've traveled 10 plus points, just 10 dex, 10 dex, 10 dex, 10 dex, 10 strength, and you aren't going anywhere damaged. So a lot of tree traveling, it sucks. Once you hit Blood Aqueducts though, and you quit One With Nothing, your DPS, it's easily 10 times better. I had, I think, 12 times or 13 times DPS increase when I crit one with nothing and got rid of everything. Another card, I mentioned it before, you have to touch noses with the bosses when you want to actually take them down. We don't have a lot of range, we are literally punching them, so you have to be kissing them. It's just how it is. It may really suck for some bosses. If you were trying to do something like Reef, absolute nightmare of a boss when he has the phases, he has shit nightmare for melee, so yeah, that's a nightmare. Otherwise, I don't know, it's okay. We have some defenses to make up for it. We have dummy damage to make up for it as well. Second to last, expensive. This isn't like my other build guides where it's a starter build guide or a league starter and I go into like there's heaps of options and it's cheap. This, there's not really heaps of options. You kind of like, in my version anyway, you kind of want to go a very specific route. Deck stacking, there's items that are far better for like what you want, like give you benefits to decks, etc. There's a few we need and want, and especially if this build gets very popular, and it will in a few days, because I know Mathel just started streaming his build of this, so his video will probably come up in like a day or two, and yeah, I'm pretty sure this price skyrocketed, so it's going to be very expensive. That's just the unfortunate nature of very fun, unique, high damage builds. Last of all, yeah, we meme a little too close to the sun. It's kind of the same with the touching noses with the bosses, etc. But it's hard. It's hard to get through some maps, especially Delirium. You have a little bit of clear speed, and it's very it's still very good. But yeah, sometimes you're just not feeling it, or your phase run can't get you out of a situation where Delirium's just on your ass. But yeah, that's kind of the whole nature of Path of Exile. For offense, like I was saying earlier, we have a dumbass 40 million damage, almost 20 attacks per second, pure physical damage in order to scale this as high as possible. I usually am an elemental boy, but I thought may as well go pure phys for once in my life. Dexterity is our best friend, so we want to get as much of this as possible, as it's both given us life thanks to items we grab, and huge damage. Every 10 dexterity is 14 to 20 added attack physical damage, and you can comfortably get 50 plus dexterity on most gear, and on jewels you can get 13 plus dexterity, so it's massive. People used to think what's the name, Abyssus was insane because it added 40 to 60. With 30 dexterity we're getting more than that, so it's insane. Even Stuck Conjures adds more fizz damage to attacks than Abyssus, and we don't have to take that increased damage. And last of all, yeah, the Impale. It's good. It reduces their resistance. Impale hits last longer. And with the Cluster Jewels, we have Deep Cuts, which is another additional hit. Very, very good. Very good for this build. And defense, we have almost 6,000 total life. In my version anyway, you can definitely go far more conservative than this and lose a little bit of extra damage. I'm sure you'd be fine. I have 179% life and 400 plus life regen. This is mostly because of our Warcry, the life regen, and we have Leech as well. So for our Leech, we leech 1,000 plus life per second. Our life leech rate, I don't think that's per second, but and we also have 100 plus mana leech. This is pretty important as we're going to run out of mana when you're attacking 20 times a second. Our mana leech alone won't be enough to maintain that many attacks per second. However, I take a mana flask, I'll talk about that later. We have 50% evasion chance, 39% fizz damage reduction. The evasion chance is because we have stupid amounts of dexterity, and we also get invasion gear, so it's very, very good in that regard. The physical damage reductions through the use of Basalt Flasks, Endurance Charges, and things like that in order to reduce our damage taken as much as possible. We also have a 30% block chance, just to a lot of the dual wielding points we grab, it gives chance to block, etc. It helps a lot. And then we also have 300%, almost 289% movement speed. I grab a lot of movement speed as we don't have any travel, so you just want to run fast, punch hard. time to walk through the Ascendancy and just the general stuff, so items, gems, cluster jewels, anointments, etc. And basic path of building walkthrough of how the build goes and why we pick what we pick. So we choose Berserker mostly because he has access to so much damage, it's unreal. He has the Rage, which gives us huge amounts of on hit with like attack effects, so movement speed, attack damage, and this gets tripled by the time we get Rat of Ruin. We also get Warbringer, as we can't crit as we're unarmed. You'd have to go another route, which you could go with Rigwald's Claw Amulet, and you could go Blitz that way and get huge attack speed, but it's just a different route, and it's awesome for the attack speed memes, but damage-wise, I don't think it's much better. I think it's about the same. No, definitely not the same. It's a little worse. So we instead go Warbringer, which gives us a bunch of endurance charges, and we can Warcry like all the time. And of course, Aspect of Carnage, because it's nuts. It's like one of the best points in the game for damage. And that's our Ascendancy, Berserker. Other viable Ascendancies is Raider. Raider has a lot of benefits with Frenzy charges, and that's the skill we're using. So you could get a lot of like really good combos that way, but that's going to be done by other people, and you can definitely check it out there. I thought about it, but Berserker, you can get much better damage. You have access to life a lot easier without having to get cluster jewels, and we need the cluster jewel slots for other things. So, and then next we have Bandit. We just take the 2 passive points from Armour. We do this because we are very strapped for points, and every point gives us massive damage. This tree is actually a little wrong. We need an extra point, but we can just take one out of here, even though it's very good. Every point is giving us like 3% total DPS or something like that. All the damage ones anyway, so it's very important to use up as like much points as we can, and we don't really get any benefits from the other main contender, which is Allura, as we can't crit, so there's not much point in going on that. This is our level 100 tree. Yeah, we need the extra point. So next we have skills. We only have 3 items, so we're really strapped for skills. We have a chest piece, a helmet, and boots. We can't do much else, and we can't even level other skills because you won't be unencumbered anymore. I chose to go with Frenzy. Please note, all these Awakened gems, I'm not using them. They're not, like, you don't have to use them. They're just to showcase what would be the best if you were to follow the build with a massive budget. So we have Frenzy, which is our main choice of skill. We only have a few choices to choose from, as when you are unencumbered, you can unarmed, you can only use like 3 attack skills. So, and I didn't feel like going Cyclone, as every single person goes Cyclone. So instead we go Frenzy to become like a Dream Boxer. We use this with Multi-Strike and Brutality, so that we can attack a lot faster, and we only only deal physical damage. This is so we can do LE reflect maps no problem, and while it could be cool or find a way to scale conversion to elemental, I've always done that in every single build guide so far. So we go on Brutality, it gives us a lot of damage. After that we have melee physical damage, which we use to it's just a boost to our damage. Impale, very important. This is most of our damage. Impale is very, very, very important to have, and it's a complicated mechanic, but it reduces their physical damage resistance, so we can pummel the hell out of them. For our 6th link, we choose to go Fortify. I choose to go Fortify anyway. This is because the 20% reduced damage taken is very nice, so it's very good. This is all, of course, with this is for bossing. For our map setup, you'd probably want to go something like Ancestral Call and Melee Splash instead of Fortify and Melee Fizz Damage. It's almost essential you do this, and it doesn't make much of a difference. Even in all the gameplay clips I had, I used Melee Splash and Ancestral Call on all the bosses except the Conquerors. So it wasn't much of a struggle, and it can definitely do a thing, and it's gem swapping, as annoying as it is, it's very easy to do for Conquerors and Cirrus. You get time before the fight. So these are our gems. Add in Melee Splash, Ancestral Call, and Melee Splash are our Ancestral Call. These are our map gems. These are our boss gems. For auras, we go with Pride, Maim, Flesh and Stone, and then Phase Run just on the side. This is, the maim is for the flesh and stone, so if you're in blood mode, you can actually maim enemies with maim, the gem itself supported, as well as the fact that it maims in blood stance in general. You don't need this if you feel like you don't want it. It adds a lot of damage, But if you feel like you instead wanted to run something like Dash and Second Wind, that's also a really good combo you can have, and that'd make coloring a lot easier. You could just have 2 greens, 2 reds. That's probably the better and smarter choice. I like phase run, so it personally doesn't bother me, but Dash and Second Wind is a really cool combo. We use Pride to reduce the physical damage. Nearby enemies take more physical damage. That's basically it. And on top of that, if you have a fat budget, there's a lot of good benefits with Pride and Watcher's Eyes, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, this is our whole 2 auras, or 3 auras. We carry a banner as well. Our buffs and banners. So we have Blood Rage, Berserk, and Enduring Cry as our buffs. Berserk we just activate on a boss, which I didn't actually activate in any of those clips. I forgot to, which is a shame because it's actually so much damage and I've just realized I fucked that up. But Berserk is awesome. You gain huge attack speed, huge damage, etc. It's awesome. Enduring Cry we use, I just pop it before every pack. I don't have the instant one, but it's very easy to get and it gives you huge damage benefits from Ascendancy and defense benefits from endurance charges. And then Dread Banner, just for Impale, as Impale is the bee's knees. That's all for our gems. Items, this is going to look a little scuffed, but Path of Building doesn't have everything quite updated yet. And I couldn't find one with nothing, and the Path of Exile trade site wasn't working. So I couldn't comfortably get it in. I'm just using a little fake one at the moment. So we have our empty hand simulators. These are irrelevant. It's just empty, just to simulate dual wielding. For our headpiece, we want to go with Star Conjures with a frenzy damage or per frenzy charge, or just increase frenzy damage enchanted on it. If you can get it, it's very expensive, but if you can get it. Star Conjures gives us some of the best dexterity in the game, as well as increased attack speed, crit chance doesn't matter, and max life, and a lot of other good things. So super important for us to take this. The dexterity alone is huge and no other item can compare. You'd have to have a pretty insane rare headpiece in order to do so. For our chest piece, we'd go with the Wild Wrapped Strap Leather. This is the best in slot for us as it increases our dexterity and we get increased damage per 15 dexterity as well. This is, for someone that's stacking dexterity, this is super important. And I've mentioned before, but almost all our slots are used with uniques. It makes it simple to gear, but expensive to gear. So the Wild Wrapped Strap Leather is what we ideally want. It's perfect for us. The gloves, again, simulation. We don't need gloves, we can't use them. But this is our one with nothing simulator. For boots, I choose to go with the Garakan's Flight, as we get so much maximum life off of it. On this pub, it's 700. And this is because we get 2 max life per 10 dexterity. That plus our already insane maximum life scaling that we pick up, it's huge. We also get a 40 dexterity on the boots and insane evasion rating. And obviously 30% increased movement speed. You can't really beat these in any slot. You could definitely go for a rare with just like as much max life as you can get and as much dexterity, maybe more movement speed, but I definitely wouldn't suggest it. The life alone is too huge. If you were really wanting to meme hard, you could go with something like 7 League Step for the insane movement speed, but that's too much for me even. So our amulet, we go with the Astromentis Onyx Amulet. Try and get as max roll as possible, and then further scale it with quality, so you can enhance the attributes and get it really high. This is massive damage, and you could go a different amulet, but like again with everything else, nothing really is ideal. And another thing to note, for the amulet, you want to anoint the Forceful Skewer Ring, which is down here. We can do that with a Verdant, Azure, and a Violet Oil, and this is just a chance for us to gain more Impale hits, and it saves us, it's not many points, but it saves us the 5 points to the node, which we can use elsewhere. So Astromentis, big ups. This is where it gets a little hard now. So for the rings and the belt and all the jewels, rare jewels anyway, you want to get as much resistance as possible while also getting dexterity. This is very difficult as dexterity is a suffix. Resistances are also a suffix, so not very fun. But, you know, You gotta do what you gotta do. So 2 stone rings are usually the better option, and this followed by as many jewels as you can get with resistance. These don't have them because fat damage, but I have resistance to my jewels in my game character. I go with the Stygian Vice, just so, 1, I can get more resistances, and 2, the damage from the gem alone is not horrible, and it's a nice way to like boost your damage. You can also get I can't remember what essence it is exactly, I'll have it in the forum guide, but you can get an essence which applies dexterity to the belt, and then just do your best to get as much resistance on it. I got lucky and I got 30 fire, 30 lightning in-game, and that's enough, but yeah, for high dexterity, some resistances, and then a Stygian Vice is the ideal way to go. And that's for all of these. You can also search it without max life and then craft it on. That's just the easiest way to try and get cheap ones, as everything's very expensive. Come down to these jewels. This is the same, except dexterity is the most important, and then max life, and get a resistance on there as well. Unless you have a huge budget, you're not going to get something like this, which is fucking ridiculous. So it's not a big deal if you just chuck on a resistance, and it's usually not that much more expensive anyway. The resistances on jewels are usually like considered wasted slots, so people don't change the price just because it has one on there. For our flasks, we have no need for a unique one. Lion's Roar is massive damage, but knockback is very annoying, and because of the build, we have a huge problem with mana. So we go with the mana flask instead. And this is only because we attack ludicrously fast. So we grab the standard, bleeding on our life flask, silver flask, movement speed, basalt for physical damage reduction, and then an enduring eternal mana flask. I grab the efficiency so it reduces our mana cost of skills, but that's not super important. You need an enduring. We attack faster than we can leech our mana back. That's going to happen when you attack 20 times a second. All these mods here, they're not super important. Heat, just chuck it on any one, and the same with the acceleration on either one. You can switch it between the basalt and the quicksilver. Adrenaline we want on the quicksilver just because we're so slow, so it's very important. And then with our unique jewels, we grab fluid motion in this little socket up here, just so we can gain huge dexterity from our strength. And if you have I don't know how much it is, probably like 15x plus budget, Watcher's Eye with Impale for 2 additional hits with Pride is our best in slot. It's not affordable for most of us, so don't stress if you can't get it. Now our cluster jewels. These cluster jewels I have on are the best ones you can find, so take that as a base. I'll have a little tier list with all the good ones. The most important one we need is obviously our one with nothing. I'll show it in the tree, actually, it's a little cleaner. So we want to grab Deep Cuts, which is an additional hit. This is must have. Very good for Impale. We want to grab Fuel the Fight for mana leech, so we don't have to path to it. And then I grabbed Smite the Weak, which is another really good one. And we main one hit, so it's very good. And obviously, a passive, you need another dual socket. It's important, you need it. If you can get one with 2 dual sockets, it's going to be very expensive. But you could get one with 2 dual sockets and Deep Cuts and Fuel the Fight, that'd be very good. And then you could path and get some life very easily. Otherwise, this is our ideal setup. So we grab these, Mana Leech, Impale, and just extra damage against maimed enemies. For our medium cluster jewel, we grab Dexterity on the small passives. That's a cheeky one, but it's very good damage. I grabbed Master of Command and First Among Equals. This increases our effect of the Pride, which is just more damage for us. So super good, and obviously a dual socket. This is the ideal one. If you could get on there as well, I think you can. Instead of First Among Equals, if you instead got increased effect of small passive skills, that would be even better, but that one is very expensive. So increased effect of small passive skills is better than First Among Equals, but it's not very achievable. Oh, and do note, for these jewels, the large, you want to grab as small passive skills as possible. I grabbed an 8 one. And for the medium one, you want to grab as many passive skills as possible, as the small ones are very beneficial to us. And then, last of all, the whole build. One with nothing, small cluster jewel. Not only was that all the gear, that's actually the build guide done. Thank you for watching very much. Enjoy. Subscribe, comment. I enjoy watching them all, reading them all, etc. This one isn't as beginner friendly as my other guides. This is kind of honed in and more of like a build showcase rather than a build guide. But I thought I'd show it all off anyway. The forum guide, yeah, it probably won't be up by the time I upload this video, but it will be up within 24 hours. I'm going to go type up the 6,000 words they usually are right now, so that'll be very fun. I love doing it. Kinda, not really, but it's a must for me to do. It's very important. I like to try and grow my views, etc. So yeah, thank you for watching. Look forward to any future builds. I'll post clean, unedited gameplay within a day or two. Maybe if I can get to Sirius, I can do a 5 of that and show you how it goes. So it'll be my first attempt at him. So I'm a potato gamer, as you guys know. So it'll be very fun. Look forward to it. The build's very, very fun. Expensive. Yeah, enjoy. Thank you very much.